an episode. What an episode. This was like, what are my feelings about this? I just tweeted episode 6 was like The Godfather Part 2. With epic performances, you forget that the plot makes no sense. I, it's overwhelmingly good performances, overwhelmingly good acting. It's a great episode by itself, episode 6. Um, it makes episode 5 a worse episode because there is no connection between episode 6 and 5. It makes the series the series itself is not cohesive. Like each episode is so good by itself, like these little mini movies, but um it just they don't connect. So like this episode was so great by itself. Incredible performances, like incredible emotion. Like there's so many moments in it where you're sitting there going, "Oh God, what's gonna happen?" Like starting with that birth with Rhaenyra birthing. By the way, her getting up, I was immediately like, "Don't they have placentas in Westeros?" And then it came, and I was like, "Okay." um, but yeah, this performance is, man, Emma Darcy is incredible. Olivia Cook is incredible. Neither character bears any resemblance to the characters of the first 5 episodes. Like by themselves, this is so incredible. No connection to what was before. Like nothing. Like it's it's just a brand new show. It just feels like a new pilot. Like this should have been the beginning of season 2 or something. Like it should not be episode 6. Like we're introduced to Harwin Strong essentially. Yes, he appeared in previous episodes, but come on, we're introduced to Harwin Strong, and that performance, where we get to know everything about him, and who he is as a character, and grow to like him and love him, and it's and it's so sad to see him go after one episode. It's like this movie by itself, but yeah, no connection to like anything as a series. Like I love Aegon the Second. What a character! What a performance! Oh man, like what a goofball! Um, man, like uh, Allison Part Two, just a vicious, evil character. Rhaenyra Part Two, like great, focused kind of character. I loved Laenor Part Two. I love all the characters. They all have no they all bear no resemblance to episodes 1 to 5, except for Laurie Strong. Laurie Strong continues on and is so creepy and wonderful. I personally, had I planned things, would not have made. Oh, I mean, and forgetting about Damon. Damon, great performance. Again, no connection to what was established in a previous episode. Like we took him to the point of being a murderer, and now we're walking that back and having him be like at least a loving husband, not really a loving father, but at least like a person that's introspective and thinking about his life, and trying to be a good person, and refusing to make the cut open the my wife call that Viserys made. I mean, they were all completely different characters. They're good characters. It's like I say, this is a great episode. I would say it's my second favorite episode. I still think episode 4 is better. This is a fantastic episode. It makes the series as a whole weaker because it doesn't make any sense. Like as a series, it makes episode 5 worse. But it itself is so good. It's such an odd contradiction. It's such an odd contradiction. Um, Laurie's just collected 2 life insurance policies, and he still has two more, two more next season. He truly is unstoppable force, and I love it. Yeah, he's pretty great. They explained it in the inside the episode that he was probably going to kill them anyway, and he just like framed it like he was killing them for her, which is an interesting kind of play on it. I would have kept the ambiguity there. Like, I'm surprised that there's 2 things. Like, one, I was very surprised that they beat us over the head with Harwin Strong, like, fathering the kids. Like, they beat it. Like, so many people read Fire and Blood and are already beaten over the head with the fact that the hair color is there. And when I say to people, it's actually ambiguous, and if you read the sources, like half of the sources say it's not true. Like you've got to like step back and say like and understand that like we don't know Emma Aaron's hair color and Rhaenys's hair color is black and all these sorts of things. And the only step back we get from that is Viserys' story about the horses, which was a great little story. I like it, and they connected it to the nature, which connected to the Lemongate reference last episode. It was really well done. But then just all the like, did we need another Harwin Strong Rhaenyra stare? And did we need that final thing at the end where Jace is like, is he my father? You're a Targaryen. Like, did you have to just freaking pound it into us? But, um, Emma looks like the younger version. No, Emma's only 8 years older than Millie Alcock. So, I Millie Alcock. So the I don't know. The younger actors were better in my opinion. The younger actors were great. They're more likable. The younger characters make you like the characters more. It's almost odd that we spend all of this time liking Allison, and the performance to make us understand and like Allison, and then all of a sudden in one episode Olivia Cook's like, nope, time to hate her, which is fun. I love Olivia Cook's like performance. It's great, but it's odd that we wasted all of this time in the first 5 episodes in order to get to the point where like, and now you're gonna hate her. Like, sympathize with this woman. The source material gives her no sympathy. We're gonna sympathize with her for 5 episodes, and then no. But yeah, what's up with Aegon in the window? I really got Tommen vibes there. Like, I'm not sure if it was the same. I'm not sure if it's not the same room, right? But like, it's framed. The direction is framed exactly the same. Like you have a window and someone's standing up and head out of frame. Like it was purposely like blocked the exact same. So like you're supposed to think about Tommen's suicide, but instead he's just jerking off, right? Like, I guess it's just you're just supposed to um it's it's just there as a joke and you're supposed to be thrown off like what I thought there was somebody committing suicide and instead it's someone jerking off. um they had a very brief thing with Helena. That's completely different from the source material. Helena is kind of a non-character, and she was happy before everybody started dying, and then she goes nuts. But like her being a dream, gifted, depressed individual that's into bugs that's all new. I'm all for it. It's interesting because there's nothing in the source material about Helena really. So. And like Harwin Strong had no character in the source material, and what they did with Harwin Strong was really great. Like I said, I thought they laid it on pretty thick about Harwin Strong being the father, but like, he was a really great character. Had they removed a few of the gazes between Harwin and Rhaenyra, and then not had that final scene with Jace, I would have liked it. Like he's just a good guy. He's being a and I think it's more interesting to accuse a guy who's innocent, or that we don't know, and so let the audience debate it. But here they just laid it on really thick, but still a great episode. What the fuck is going on with Aegon? LOL. They're absolutely making him Larry's cheese. Like every episode, his rats are now the only thing. Now only the king is seeing them. Yeah, they're definitely making Larys at least responsible for cheese. We'll see if Larys is cheese himself, but which was always my theory that he's been faking the clubfoot and that he is cheese. So at this point, I would say it's 100% that he's responsible for hiring cheese. But we'll see if he's actually the one who's going to be sitting there doing the cheese stuff. But um, yeah, all the kids did great. I was annoyed by none of the kids. The kids were all uh, the kids were all fantastic actors. Normally, like people don't like kid actors. I thought all the kids were great. Were great. Um, how do I get Preston's mom's Game of Thrones House of the Dragon reviews? Um, so my mother, I do enjoy my mother because she gives me these sort of casual um, response. So like she watched Rings of Power, for instance, and it's just like, yeah, I fell asleep. What a boring show. And I'm like, well, that's a very important, like, just straight up um, opinion, because then I know, like, because I question myself, like I'm psychotic, and all you guys in the chat are psychotic too. So I can't trust any of us. Um, but my mother is my casual, so she's just like, so she'll watch an episode and be like, this didn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to my mother, like, um, who knows nothing about like deep lore or anything like that, she's seen all of Game of Thrones and she's seen this, and if it doesn't make sense to her, then I'm like, good. That means it doesn't make sense to like the average viewer. So like for her, like the Joffrey Lonmouth thing, like was like she was just puzzled. Like what? Like how can somebody beat a guy to death and then we're not even gonna, like, no one's gonna be arrested? And of course they didn't. They did no addressing of it at all, at all. We get one stare for a second. Um and the fact that like Harwin Strong beats up Sir Kristen, and all of a sudden he has to be kicked out of the City Watch for his little move of punching Sir Kristen Cole, when when Kristen doesn't have to get anything. Like I say, like, this episode is fantastic, makes episode 5 even worse. Like episode 5 like just drops because this one didn't spend any time like trying to repair how horrible episode 5 was. Um, Stark contrast, by the way, Lena getting to choose her end, and Emma being butchered like Sharon Tate. Viserys versus Daemon too. They're both murderers, but Daemon has standards his brother can't even fathom. Yeah, yeah. Um, which Damon's character's all over the map. This episode, yeah, the fact that he chose not to do that, and let Lena have her own fate and things like that is a completely different character from what they explained Damon was in the episode where he took Rhaenyra to the brothel, because the showrunners explained that the reason he was angry is that he didn't have power and control over Rhaenyra, that he couldn't get it up because she wanted to have sex with him. If that were this Daemon Targaryen, he would have been like, yes, consensual sex, that's what I want. But versus like wanting to control everything. So I don't know what they're Daemon's chaotic. He's a different character every single episode, which, maybe that works because Daemon's just, he's the wild card, he's the rogue prince, but hard to believe that he would just chill out for the character that they established in the first 5 episodes. It's hard for me to accept that he would chill out and be a family man for 10 years in Pentos and not get bored. That just doesn't sound like him based on what I've seen. What I've seen is a sex worker loving, glory seeking in war, guy who likes to, interfere in politics and murder people and all sorts of things. And all of a sudden he's like, I don't like politics. I'm so happy to be outside of politics, chilling here for 10 years. That was not the Daemon you established. That was not the Daemon you established. They tried to walk him back. All of a sudden, like, this episode's Daemon is the closest to book Daemon that we've gotten so far. Everything, like, the first 5 episodes are like, let's make the most sinister Daemon possible. And this is the first time we were like, well, maybe, let's look at it from Daemon's perspective. Like, what's Daemon thinking? And this is the first time we actually got like a book Daemon. but he doesn't match the first five. Like he doesn't. Uh, yeah, I mean this episode's so good, and it makes the series worse. Like it's not a series anymore. It's just bunch of single episodes. It's like Aeon Flux. It's like Aeon Flux. Like I can take each episode and be like, I kind of like this. It has no relevance to the previous episode. Um, why are there so many pregnancies? Hot D is chick lit. George R. Martin is considered chick lit. I think there's some talk about um like what it takes to be chick lit, and it's something like if 25, like it's some really low level, like 25% of the characters are female or something, or something like that, um to make something chick lit. Which is just goes to show, like, literature in general is so male dominated. But yeah, I mean, there's this many books in the source material. I don't think you definitely didn't need all of these characters. Like, you know when George wrote um Princess and the Queen and the Rogue Prince, like he wasn't thinking way back in 2012, 2013 that this was going to be adapted. He just kind of wrote some stuff, and he definitely didn't need all of the characters. He didn't need a Laenor. He doesn't need a Joffrey. Like once you have a young Joffrey Valerian, the all these little characters, like you didn't need these families to be so big, but you know, he just did it. So now they're following it. And actually, did they cut um Daron? Did I even see a I have to look this up. Did they cut a character? Doesn't Allison have one fewer kid? I don't remember seeing a fourth child. She has four children in the book, and I only saw three, but I might be mistaken. I just didn't. Yes, justice for Joffrey. Um, like I didn't see a Daron, but maybe he's too young or something. I just didn't see him around. I don't know. I might be. Jace's best boy, Ice and Fire baby. Praise be to DA Dealmakers. LFGGGG. I'll stan him. Preston stan Sweet Robbie. Okay. Um. Still convinced they're Lanors. Well, clearly not in the show, but in the book, it's purposely ambiguous. We're never supposed to know. That's the idea. This whole thing, like, oh, convinced. Like, there's what the source material like says. Like the source material is completely ambiguous. Half of the people in the source material say it's a lie, and half say it's true, or half don't even say it's true. Half imply it. And we're never told, so like what the show chooses to do does not change what the book material like is. Like in the book material, like Joffrey Lonmouth is killed at a tourney. Am I supposed to be like, well, the show had Joffrey Lonmouth killed at a welcome feast, so clearly that's what happened? Like, no. Like the show doesn't have any influence on what the book material says. Like in the book material, it's ambiguous. It's always ambiguous. It's never going to not be ambiguous. Um, so no, it's um, is that girl psychic? I think they're giving her dreams or something. Prophetic dreams. This is Helena. They're giving her. They want to have Helena be more interesting than she is. But she's a happy plump girl in the books. That's pretty much all we know about her. She's a happy plump girl, and then she becomes depressed and kills herself eventually. But like after a bunch of people die. After, but you know, She she's not like counting legs on centipedes and having prophetic dreams about Aemond losing his eye. Um, did the Allison to Aegon scene uh, feel like porn intro to you? Why did she touch him so much? Ew, I'm getting edible mother vibes. I have to rewatch that. I guess I didn't get it too much. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's a little weird that she like. I mean, he was clearly jerking off, and that she goes in and like wants to talk to him, and is not like thrown off by the fact that he was masturbating. But like, oh, I'll come back 5 minutes later. Um, but I didn't I didn't get it, but I'll look for it on the rewatch. Um, yeah. I mean, they're definitely trying to make all the Targaryens look weird and creepy. But so, why is the queen so involved? I thought that was also really weird. Um, she's on the small council, like, so the only example we have of a queen being that involved is Alicent, or not Alicent, Alicent. But Alicent is a little different in that she's also a Targaryen, and you know was married for was this, I don't know, strong character who was married to Jaehaerys for so long, and they were their dragons were bonded together and all of this sort of stuff. So it's not you know unheard of that a queen would have that much influence. I suppose one could also argue that Visenya and Rhaenys had strong influence as well. Uh, but it does seem odd that all of a sudden we have Alicent like sitting on the small council and essentially ruling in Viserys' stead. In fact, the part that really got me was when Rhaenyra offered the marriage pact, and as if it was Alicent's choice, and Viserys is sitting there going, "Oh, sounds great! Like, this is Westeros, this is feudalism. He's the freaking king. He's the lord. Like, he handles the marriage pact. Like, Alicent has no role in it." Um, had they made that more subtle, and she says, and then later convinces him behind the scenes, that's one thing. But to be sitting there in front of the entire small council saying, like, no, it's my decision over the king, that's a bit weird, right? A bit weird. Is Aegon's horniness going to be a plot device? I think they're just trying to give him some weird quirks or something. It's hard for me to say. What they did. So Aegon, he's in the source material. He's a bit schizophrenic. They either portray him as this angry dude who like hates Rhaenyra, or they portray him as this clueless dude who's like, why would I ever try to take my sister's birthright? And they essentially gave him that line, like, I won't challenge her, authority, like, so they can really go anywhere because Aegon the second is just has a schizophrenic personality. We're not really sure what's going on with him, but horniness, yeah, we'll see what they do with him. Where maybe he's going to be into bugs. Maybe him and Helena will have good old bug sex. Um, are we not getting Aemon One Eye, do you think? Because the kids are separated now. Will they come back for Dragonstone for a trip? There's gonna be some sort of like funeral or wedding or something to bring them together. In fact, in the source material, they start on Dragonstone or Driftmark and only see each other during these like family reunions and visits. So them like growing up together is not necessarily it's not really a thing, which explains more of their like hatred. Like this, they're like, considering they're being raised together, they should be more like brothers. I suppose we get a little bit of that with the pink dread scene, which is a good scene. I liked it. Um, but they should like each other more, right? Or at least feel bonded to each other more. But I don't know. I mean, they're just gonna have some sort of funeral or something. I mean, we've got a bunch of funerals and weddings to coming, to bring people together. So we've got Lena's funeral. We're gonna have Laenor's funeral. You're gonna have Aegon and Helena's wedding. Lots of different things can bring people together and have that Aemon One Eye scene. But they're definitely gonna have. I mean, we've seen in the previews that he's gonna have the one eye, and he's definitely gonna take Vegar. I mean, considering that like the climax of the entire story, the epic conclusion to the entire story is Daemon versus Aemon One Eye fighting in the sky over the Isle of Faces. Like you can't not have that scene. So everything leading up to it, like Aemon needs to have Vagar, Aemon needs to have One Eye. Like you can't take the most iconic scene of the entire event, like the Dance of the Dragons, and remove it. Like it's the most iconic thing when you think like the Dance of the Dragons. Well, it all leads up to boom, Aemon and Daemon fighting in the sky. Everything leading to that is going to happen. Was Homelander in this episode? Oh. Aegon being like Homelander. You're totally right. Aegon is. Oh my god. Now everything's fitting together because somebody mentioned like edible complex, weird sex things, and then anger that comes out of nowhere. Wow. Actually, you're right. Aegon the Second is just freaking Homelander. Like completely, like his personality's all over the place. He's got weird sex fetishes, a love for his mom. Ugh, you're right. Fucking Aegon the Second is Homelander. Oh my god. Ah, jeez. God, that felt rushed. Did you pick up any important things they breezed past from Fire and Blood? These are some broad strokes. I'm trying to think if there was any like tiny Easter eggs here and there. There was a few lines that came straight from Fire and Blood, like her telling Laenor that try again. You're going to get one that looks like you. Aegon saying, "Why would I question my sister's birthright?" Essentially, he doesn't say that exactly, but for the most part, his puzzlement is straight from Fire and Blood. The and then everything else was the broad strokes. Obviously the Harwin and Laris like going to Harrenhal and getting killed, and Lena dying, and them living in Pentos and things like this. It was never explained, and it's never explained in the source material, and they never explain it here. But they never explain why Daemon is living in exile. In the source material, they just say Corlys was upset that Daemon had married Lena, and you read it and you're like, why is he upset? Like what was the reason that he's upset at that marriage? Like it's never really explained, because like some people say, oh well, he got married without his leave. Well, he doesn't need their leave because he asks Corlys, and Corlys is a lord, and lords marriage pacts are determined by lords, and Corlys is the lord, and so he arranges the marriage. But in the source material, it says that Viserys was upset at the marriage of Daemon and Lena, and that's why they're living abroad, because Viserys was angry. Never explained in the source material why he didn't like that marriage. Not explained here either. Man, so sometimes like compared to Ice and Fire, like just Fire and Blood is so slapped together where there's so many broad strokes where you're just like, how did that happen? How did Lena get Vagar? Are we ever no, we're just never gonna explain that. Like we get a little hint. Like at least the show added this hint that Vagar had escaped the dragon's pits and was like, or too big for the dragon pit and was like living on Driftmark somewhere. And we have to assume that she just picked up. She just like found him on the beach and claimed him. Um, Never explained. Never explained in the source material. Never explained here. Um, who is Cheese? I get this a lot, but this is some because a lot of people keep asking me the Laurie's Cheese connection, and it's like okay, I guess spoilers and all, but in the source material, uh, there is a character. There are two characters called Blood and Cheese who are hired by, rumor has it, Missaria. But that's just a rumor, so we don't know who hired them. And Blood and Cheese, because Cheese was the rat catcher in the Red Keep, he knew all of the little areas behind the wall. And he sneaks into the castle and he kidnaps Allison and he kidnaps Helena. And he he kidnaps the kids and Helena's children, and she asks Helena to make a Sophie's choice, like which one do you want me to kill? And she's like, this is a horrific thing, so she chooses. I think she chooses the younger one to kill, and Cheese decides to kill the older one instead. And then he escapes. Blood is caught and is executed, but Cheese escapes. And because Cheese no is knows all of the spaces of the Red Keep. Like that aspect of him makes him parallel character to Varys, and Laris is already the parallel character to Varys because he is a confessor. He knows the black cells just like Varys with Rugen the Jailer. He's the master of whisperers, and of course his name rhymes. So the idea is that if you have these two parallel characters that are both parallel to Varys, maybe they're the same character. And the big thing going against this is that Cheese is seems to be able-bodied, and it's like, well, maybe Laris has been faking his foot, his club foot. And then some people say, well, wait a minute, if wait, was Allison also kidnapped? Did Allison see Cheese's face? And it's not really sure. So there is that too. Did Allison see who Cheese was? We don't really know. And is was Laris like faking his clubfoot the whole time? So Kristen looks too young. They should have gotten a new actor too. I kind of agree. Wow, Kristen, they really made Kristen into a douche. There's no like, I mean, I don't think there was any coming back from last episode with Kristen, but there's definitely no coming back now. I mean, there's just um lack of comic relief was very apparent in this tense episode. How about a throwaway joke about the king missing his hand? Yeah, I suppose they could have switched around some of those kids scenes to have like the kids doing funny things or something in between, but or use Carl Corey making an inappropriate joke or something at the wrong time. But you're right that it was a very very tense episode. Um, yeah, man, I'm way behind. I'm way behind. Okay, everybody's very excited about this episode. Um, I'm so disappointed they didn't let be Valarian's parentage to be unambiguous. Black Lanor's changes nothing. It would be much more intriguing if there was mystery, but even so, not a 10. Not a 10. I would actually say the exact same thing. I was very annoyed that they didn't let it be so ambiguous. Like, what's the point? Like now, um, it kind of means you kind of had to rush that relationship with Harwin Strong too. Like, what do we know about the relationship? Well, would they look at each other longingly? Well, how does their relationship function day to day? Like, is he supportive of her? Is she supportive of him? Like, are they in love? Like, all of it, we kind of get this, parental thing, like them beaming at each other and him beaming at his sons. Like, but we don't get any inkling of love between Rhaenyra and Harwin. We just kind of have their kind of parental thing together. Um, did Aegon jacking off get in the window already get discussed? Yes, yes, yes. He's a weirdo. He's Homelander, as some people are saying. He's Homelander. Um, do you think there'll be an Aegon Conquest TV show? Uh, Not anytime soon. I know that. So there was some discussion about. So we kind of know that the future shows that are going forward, and now with the success of House of the Dragon, I would say that it looks like they're gonna fricking go all in now because people are watching House of the Dragon. It's got pretty good reviews. It is HBO's bread and butter. So we're gonna get 10,000 ships. We're gonna get Sea Snake. We're gonna get animated lice. We're gonna get Jon Snow. We're getting it all. 100 years, baby. 100 years. Um, so it's definitely happening. Will they have room for an Aegon's Conquest kind of show? And the answer to that is there is some talk that maybe House of the Dragon could be that after they finish with the Dance of the Dragons, which would be 3 or 4 seasons, that they could then go to a different period in Targaryen history and focus on that. So that could happen, but we will see. I mean, I think what's going to happen is we're gonna have at least 2 seasons of the war, and then there's a question of whether the Hour of the Wolf would be like a fourth season, um, with everything there, or if they would just end it after 3 seasons or something with the war. But so yeah, a queen makes a wish. Larry sequels Jock and Hagar. I did not catch that, but you're right that that seems to be a reference, doesn't it? That she's making a reference to something that she didn't realize, that she didn't necessarily really want him, like Arya's first deaths on the death list. She's unsure when Jaqen first kills them if she should have done it, and of course she also regrets the fact that she wasted her wishes on um uh like someone as lame as Chiswick and Weiss, like so. Um, but uh, and I'm trying to remember the show because the show he kills the Tickler and forget the other one, but they're like worse people, because I think like Chiswick and Weiss, like I think one of them just like tells a bad joke and it's like a really bad reason for murdering the guy. Um, and so she feels like oh Jesus, like I killed the guy. But then she seems to be okay with the death list later. So the same sort of thing like is probably going to happen with Allison. It's a good call. It's a good, because in a sense they're breaking her into being a murderer, and being cruel. Like she didn't mean for that, but now it's happened, and so now like her the seal of her morality has been broken. Um, Viserys seems a lot more complacent after the time skip. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing is this, like Allison, even over my dead body on marriage pact. What the fuck? You're not the king. You're not the king. Right? It's so weird. It's so weird. I think I watched Carmine's review, and he made the statement. It feels like there's a missing episode. It does. It does feel like like it's a missing episode. Like I say, like the episode is fantastic, but it makes the series weaker as a series. It doesn't the episodes don't fit together. It's a it's Aeon Flux. Thank you, Curtis Scott. You're the best. R.I.P. Melos, or was that Melos post op? Did they kill Melos off screen? Damn it! Like I did notice that it was just Orwile sitting there. By the way, Beastberry, does Beastberry age? He's like the same age. Like he's the same dude. He's an immortal. He's the I don't know if you guys saw She-Hulk like with the immortal, but Beastberry is the immortal. He looks exactly the same in every episode. I didn't see Melos. I mean, maybe he's like old, but like out of it or something. Larius is part of the Green Men worshipping cult. That'd be interesting. That he's part of the Order of the Green Hand. Like he's. But I think instead he's just really focused on the conspiracy or something. I mean, maybe they're either trying to have him be like Littlefinger, like he only cares about himself, and he's going to be killing people on both sides to try to rise. Um, but I don't know how much more there is to rise from here. Like he's already going to be Master of Whisperers and Lord of Harrenhal. Like what is he looking to sit on the Iron Throne himself? How is he going to pull that off? Is he going to marry? Because if he's responsible for Cheese, he's also responsible for ruining Helena. So I don't know who else he could marry. There aren't any other females for him to marry except for Helena to get on the Iron Throne. Um, uh, but it just seems like he must be like really focused on the conspiracy to get rid of dragons or something, or he's just nuts. Have fun, be well, stay hydrated. Trying. Shouldn't Daron be born yet? Yeah, I'm not sure if they're just cutting Daron or if he's going to be later on, or they just figured there's too many kids. I didn't see Daron. Maybe he was running around in the background. I don't know. She did. There was a line that said, to Aemond, you're the only one who doesn't have a dragon," and I don't think Daron ever has a dragon. No. Daron rides Tessarion, I think. So if he's around, he's really young to be having a dragon. Maybe he has a hatchling, um, or maybe they've just cut the character or something. He's around in the background. Couldn't. Daron is a mystery. Daron's a mystery. We'll see what happens with him. Pig Dragon was comic relief. That's all we got. We got fapping and the pink dread. Though probably 33 episodes. Seasons 3 and 4 will be 6 to 7 each. Yeah, I could see something like that. Because what's going to happen now, right? Like the actors are going to ask for more money than they can only afford. So much, so many. They're going to ask for money based on the episode, so they cut the number of episodes. Um, yeah, I feel like George is trying to do as many shows as possible. I think so. I think this is he's switched his legacy. He wants this to be his legacy instead of uh, that shall not be named. Thank you, Ivan. Um, yeah, let's see. I'd love for time traveling Bran to make an appearance. That'd be a bit much. I mean, they're really cramming everything in. I don't know if they have much room. Um, I don't know if they have much room at all. So The Laurie straight up killed his father and brother. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a rumor in the source material, but it's also a rumor in the source material that it was an accident, and it's a rumor in the source material that it was Damon, and things like that. It's weird that they just went straight out. They're just like, nope. And here's your little beetle. Make sure we're gonna use the same characters that we that we saw Laurie's cutting the tongues off of, so that there is no there's no way to think otherwise. You know, Beesbury was maybe Bees. You're right. Beesbury was the comic relief. Um, Beesbury would be like me, like at the small council. Like I'd be thinking about something, and then they've moved on. I'm like, well, wait a minute, and like, poor Beesbury. What a great guy. um, it's crazy. Kristen Cole should have been banished. Yeah, it just seems really it's such so striking that you're pulling. I mean, that had to be intentional, that they're pulling the exact same scene, right? It's the exact same scene where Harwin is punching his face. Okay, and first of all, if Harwin's the strongest man in Westeros, shouldn't he be crushing Kristen Cole's skull in? you know? So he gets banished for punching Kristen Cole when Kristen Cole absolutely deserved it because Kristen Cole was being a dick. And then and then the and he gets banished and kicked out. He gets taken from the city watch and kicked out of town for punching Kristen Cole, and Kristen Cole gets nothing. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like I say, just this episode's like if makes episode 5 just even worse. Daron is an old town. Yeah, maybe he's an old town somewhere. I forget why he would be. Um, See, they've switched the timeline around, so it's like hard to know where Daron should be. Oh right, he was made cupbearer to. So in the books, he was made much later. He's made cupbearer to Lord Hightower in Old Town. So they essentially have a hostage. Um, but it's weird that a child so young would have a dragon. I mean, maybe he has a hatchling. Maybe they sent him with his hatchling to Old Town or something like that. I suppose they could do that. Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, they didn't even mention his name. They definitely cut him. Daron is an Old Town. Could be either, I suppose. Yeah. It's just he was sent to Old Town later. So maybe he's a cupbearer in Old Town with his dragon. I don't know how Old Town is handling a dragon. Like, do they have dragon pits in Old Town? I mean, this is another book thing. Like, clearly they did it in Fire and Blood, but um, is it a bee? Was that a bee or a beetle? Does anyone have any? Maybe I can find Blari Strong bug pin. What it means. I mean, I suppose if it's a bee, it kind of makes sense in that he's the queen bee and they're all his workers or something. Um, I guess I'll have to take a look back at it. It kind of looked like a really small cicada to me, but like I don't know what it was. Um, so these are kid actors, adult actors coming in episode 8. Okay, so we're gonna get one more episode with these guys, and then they're gonna do another time skip. Um, Young adult Aegon and Aemond are handsome. I mean, they're all good looking kids. They're all very handsome children. They you know. I mean, they're movie stars. They're all more attractive than the rest of us. Darren has been sent to the Citadel in the show season two. I guess. I mean, I'll listen again to see if his name is even mentioned, but I didn't even hear them say like Darren anywhere. But um, was Lena's death that silly in the book? Am I the only one that hated Lena's death? She in the book, I think she stumbles towards Vegar to try to ride him one more time. She wants to ride him one more time before she dies, and I think she dies walking to Vagar. But I don't think Vagar burns. She doesn't go to him to like commit suicide. She goes to him to have one last flight. Um, from what I remember, I have to look up this stuff because the let's see, let's get to Lena. He wed Lena a fortnight later. Lena learned she was with child. Here we go. She gave birth to twin daughters, and then labor left. It just says that labor left Lena pale and weak. She finally gave birth to Prince Daemon, to the son Prince Daemon so desired, but the babe was twisted and malformed. Oh, right. Yeah. So this was, but who knows? The rumor. But they had the whole uh, malformed child, which Rhaenyra later has, and of course Daenerys has, like these malformed children that we never see, that no one knows if it's actually twisted and malformed. The mother did not survive long. Her grueling labor drained her, and so with grief of the dead babe, she made she had a childbed fever. So I think it's a little, we're getting elements of Lyanna Stark's death. And then as her condition worsened despite efforts of the maester, maesters, Prince Daemon flew to Dragonstone and brought his own maester, Gerardis, because he didn't trust the Driftmark's maester, which was true. You shouldn't trust that guy. And then 3 days of delirium, Lena passed from this mortal coil. During her final hour, it was said that Lena rose from her bed, pushed the septas aside, and went to Vagar for one last flight, but she didn't make it, and she collapsed and died. That was it. So rather different, actually, rather different from Fire and Blood. What's the importance of the beetle from Fire and Blood? I don't remember any beetle or anything from Fire and Blood with regards to that. To fix the 5 to 6 transition, I think that Kristen Cole had a trial and claimed something like Joffrey charged at Rhaenyra for some reason with Allison's support. They should have done something. They needed an episode between, because one, like, the transition is like, normally I'd say that these time skips were done really well. This was a bad time skip. Like, none of the characters seem like they're the same character. Granted, it's been 10 years, but they're completely and utterly different. Daemon is completely and utterly different. Rhaenyra is completely and utterly different. Allison is completely and utterly different. Even Viserys has gone back to being kind of a nice guy. He's like, feels more like Viserys episode 1 than he does Viserys episode 4 or 5, where he was like angry and like, so the only person who felt the same is Laurie Strong. He's the only, and I mean, even Lionel seems like a different character. Beesbury, I guess, seems the same. But like Lionel seems like a different character. Harwin seems like a different character because we actually get to know him. There's nothing similar between any of the characters except for Laurie Strong after the time jump. None of the issues that are brought up and are dealt with. All the things, like, for instance, why begin episode 5 with the murder of Rhea Royce and then end the episode with her cousin like accusing Daemon of murder, and then Daemon saying, I'm going to go to Runestone and look into that inheritance. Why even have those scenes? Like, they didn't lead it. Like, they led nowhere. They led to absolutely nowhere. Like, maybe you're going to bring this guy back in the Dance of the Dragons or something. But there was no transition between 5 and 6. You needed another episode. You needed something. I would say that Allison's character is the one that is the worst for it. Olivia Cook's portrayal is great. She's great. I forget the actress names for Allison's actress. Emily Carey, also great, but their performances bear no resemblance to each other. And Emily Carey played Allison as someone that we should like and feel for and empathize with, and we do. Olivia Cook is portraying her as a villain, somebody that we're supposed to hate, and we do. No transition. There is nothing to connect those two portrayals. And you just needed another episode, or somebody needed to do something better in episode 5. Because episode 6 just had too many things going on. So, but man, Helena said Aemond would lose an eye to a dragon. Yes, so they've made Helena into a dreamer, which I'm all for. But yeah, she's nothing. She has no character in the book other than being happy. She's just a happy fat girl, and they've made her into something a little more interesting, which it's a little reminiscent of Dune, right? Right? Like the power, like the powerful dreamer sister kind of. I don't know. Beesbury King, yes, Beesbury. It's too bad we all know his fate. Poor Beesbury. But man, that Beesbury. will centipedes play a role in the story going forward? Probably not, but we'll see. We'll see what's going on with her. Lionel Strong's too logical. It's true. I did really like Lionel Strong. He was just really a really good hand. He was a really good hand. So, in my profession, I'm an auditor, and like there's a big thing about being impartial. And if you are going to be part of an audit that you think you can't be impartial, like you have to sign like waivers beforehand saying that like, I have no conflicts of interest before I do this audit and stuff like that. And that's weird is that Lionel probably could have continued on as a great hand, but the fact that he even sensed that he might be compromised and can't be a good hand because he might be compromised shows that he would never have been compromised. Like he would have been the best hand, like no matter what. It's too bad. It looks like Viserys lost half his arm. I do have to look at that again because a lot of it is hidden and he's sitting. And I mean, I did see his right arm quite a bit, and it was fine. But I have to see about his left arm. I have to look for that. Lena's death was weirdo. I mean, walking outside and finding the dragon and one being burned, and I don't know what he was doing. Like, what did he hope to say? Like, Lena, like, just die of the pains. I don't know. Or they could have tried to like, so when in those situations, what they try to do is they try to cut and they try to crush and cut the the birthed baby to save the mother. So like one of the two should be tried. You don't just kind of leave them and go, you're dead. Like they would at least try to like crush the baby or cut it in pieces and pull it out to save Lena. Um, so maybe, I mean, maybe that was her choice. I don't know. Lenor, how is it hard? How is it hard to fuck your wife? Worse than Stannis. Yeah, it's true. He and this is the thing that makes um the argument for Rhaenyra's children being hers so strong is that would Rhaenyra really be that stupid to have an affair 3 times and have a when like her entire queenship rests on the on something? Would she be so stupid to have an affair 3 times and produce like 3 strong children? Like it's such a boneheaded move that you kind of say like, why would you do that? Um, and you know, yeah, Lanor, like he can keep his eyes closed and imagine something else and father children, like and do his part. Like, why would they not do that? It's just really it's really silly. Which I think is the strong. Like there are people that really do believe that Laenor, like from the source material, that no, Laenor is logically the father. Just because like why would Rhaenyra be that dumb? Like what character would be that dumb to not at least have one of the children be Laenor's when your entire like when all of their lives and your queenship are dependent upon these sorts of things. Like why would you do that? And so I don't know. We're still left open. It's still, I guess, left open that Kristen Cole could be the father of the eldest. Um, so it's still left open in the show that Kristen Cole could be the father of the eldest, but it does seem to be that they've really pushed the Harwin being at least the father of the latter two. But um, Skylar Smith. I really like the fact that they mentioned the afterbirth. I'm really nitpicky about this. I was ready to rage when she was like, "Fine, I'll go myself," and then I was like, "Placenta! What are they doing? Where's the placenta?" And then when the placenta showed up, I was like, "Phew, okay, okay, that's that's." Um, is Vegar a she-dragon since Visenya rode him or her? So there's no explanation in the source material why something is a she-dragon or a he-dragon. And I think that if I were to guess, it must mean that like you've laid some eggs and therefore you're declared as a she-dragon. All of the she-dragons originally have a female rider, save one, and that's Tessarion. Tessarion is the one dragon that is described as a she dragon that it has a male rider from the beginning. So I don't know if like dragons need a female rider to produce clutches of eggs because we don't hear about Tessarion necessarily. I mean, I don't know why Tessarion is a she dragon. Maybe Tessarion laid some eggs. Um, but so like I would have had the theory that all she dragons need to have female riders to lay eggs, and that's a really important thing. And this like is the whole thing about like Dreamfire Rhaena and Rhaenys and why they want all these men in power and because they don't want the dragons laying eggs. And then Tessarion like throws the wrench in my theory. So I don't know about that. So in fact, I have to look this up one more time to really make sure that Tessarion is a she dragon. Oh, there's a character named Tessario the Thumb. But let me see this. Spell it correctly. Tsari. Tsari. That's how I spelled it. Why am I getting it? Here we go. Tsarian. Yeah. So Vermithor, there's a line in Princess and the Queen that says Prince Daron's she-dragon Tessarian. Vermithor is thrice the size of Prince Daron's she-dragon Tessarian. So I don't know why he's riding a she-dragon. A lovely blue she-dragon named Tessarian, though he had yet to ride. Yeah, I mean it was him, so it sounds like it was his hatchling, and then it laid eggs as a hatchling to be a she dragon. I don't know. Maybe the Maesters are screwing with us in the source material and want us to be confused. Maybe Tessarian was never a she dragon. Who knows? Um, um, let's see here. There's definitely a butterfly effect happening here with the book timeline. Oh, it's about like little changes like affecting other things later on. Um uh, the I mean they don't seem to be too concerned with like shifting things around a little bit. A lot of those kids seemed like they were older than 9. Is it me? Did it seem like they like it's weird that they were all um they seem like they could be like 11 or 12 and yet they all were supposed to be 9 or younger, because considering the ten year time shift. But um I'm trying to think like timeline shifts that like make big effects later. I don't know if it's they can fix them all. It's just that everybody by the time the dance happens has to be has to be dragon riding age. Like that's the only thing that's really important. Um, However, what year is it? Because now Joffrey isn't going to be old enough to ride a dragon if we're going to start the dance in 129 or 130. They must be pushing the dance later, right? Because if it was like 115 or 116 in episode 5 and then we add 10 years, it's like 126, 127. You can't there's no way that Joffrey is just born. There's no way that we're getting to there's no way that we're getting to Joffrey being on a dragon. So I guess that's some stuff. Aemond is gonna be super young on Aemond. I mean, Aemond One Eye is going to be super young on his dragon. All of them are going to be kind of super young. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe they're going to push. They got to push the dance a few years. Hmm. Yeah. Should be spelled Vagar in my opinion. You're right. I've maybe we've all been pronouncing it wrong this entire time, and it's really Vagar. But it's like we everybody's with the A sound, so like, um, uh, so what are we supposed to do? Like, right? I think at various times I've probably misspelled Vagar because I'm a horrible speller, but the by the way, pronunciation wise, I was watching um, George R. Martin video, and he pronounces the House of Valarian really weird. He pronounces them Valyrian, the Valyrians, and you're like, how are you getting Valyrians out of that spelling? But it's like that's George, Valyrian, like Valyrian and Valyrian, like the Valyrian, like um yeah, I wish Lena got to do something with Vagar. It's tough. We just saw her flying him once. I do like Vagar's look. He looks like a big old dragon. You know, looks like a big old dinosaur. Why would Larius conspire against his own family? I think we're just chalking it up to insanity. Right now, we're kind of having it be both insanity and self gain, but I think if we're going book-wise, he's more committed to the the conspiracy to end dragons than anybody else. They tried to explain it with a weird, insane speech, right? Like, ah, oh, children, like ridiculous, right? They trick us into believing that we're somehow like immortal when we're not, and they stop us from doing what's right. Um, so what's the point of them? Um, so we must feel that way about family in general. But we're just, I think the idea is that he's very committed to a cause, and that cause is probably the conspiracy to kill dragons. Um, because the self gain thing doesn't really even make sense because he doesn't gain anything more after this point. He's once he becomes master of whisperers, um, like he doesn't rise any more than what he has. But oh, how long was Viserys' corpse in his bed before the small council made the decision? Morbid curiosity. Oh, not long. He was like still warm when they started doing stuff. It was a big deal. Like the bells had just rung. The Green Council convenes, and Beesbury goes out like a rock star. Beesbury. Um, let's see. Preston isn't an auditor. He's a stay-at-home dad. Well, I'm on paternity leave, but I'm still employed. Still employed. Um, oh, 1,000 watchers right now. Let's see. Too dark. Was the episode too dark? I mean, like visually or like plot wise. Um, Allison's remark was a little bit much. It's a weird way to start the episode, right? Like when we last left her, they'd repaired their friendship, and then she was she she's this like snarky Cersei character, right? Um oh, this is about why would Rhaenyra be stupid enough to father three children because sex is fun. Sex is fun. She also has access to moon tea and all sorts of things that allow people to uh, um, do family planning. Okay, there's lots of things that people can do family planning wise to make sure that certain things, especially in a world where one they have moon tea, two there's this thing called pulling out that although the secrets is pulling out is actually pretty effective. So yeah, I know people are like they tell you in sex ed class or whatever that like not to do it, and it's like yeah, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't rely on it, but it's still something that works pretty well. Um, for her to produce at least one child with Lenore, right? It's silly. Like it's one thing like Cersei was in love with Jaime and Jaime in love with Cersei, or at least they were in love with themselves. And so in that case, like you have a motivation of Cersei specifically wanted to pass on her and Jaime's child and did not want to do it for Robert. Like that was like a very important thing for her. Rhaenyra doesn't have that motivation. Like, have we established Rhaenyra as someone that loves Harwin and wants to have a child with Harwin? No, we've established Rhaenyra as someone who's doing her duty as queen because she has to fulfill a prophecy to be the prince that was promised. Okay, so there's no reason established that she would be wanting to have Harwin Strong's children. She would be wanting to have Laenor Velaryon's children because she wants to have dragon rider children. don't you think she would want to like have a child with a dragon rider, like to make sure? Like she essentially gets lucky that all three of her children are dragon riders. So it's really boneheaded. It's boneheaded that Rhaenyra would do that. Like, yeah, I believe that she would be like having sex, like sure. But when we're talking about like choosing to have a child, like you like women know when like there's things you can do. You know when your period is. You know when you're fertile. You know, you certain people are gonna pull out and certain people are not. Like there's moon tea. There's all sorts of things that you can do to try to make sure that you have a child with Laenor Velaryon. What motivation does she have to not have a child with Laenor Velaryon? I just don't I don't get it. I don't get it. It's the strongest argument that they're Laenors in the book is it makes the most sense that they're Laenors in the book. Like politically speaking, from Rhaenyra's perspective, why on earth would you want to do anything otherwise? This episode was a brilliant adaptation of Fire and Blood with absolutely no connection to the previous 5 episodes. Great intro of Carl Corey too. Yes, this is pretty much this is a great pilot to a brand new show called House of the Dragon that finished. And there was another show that was okay called House of the Dragon, had some pretty strong episodes. But this is a great new show called House of the Dragon. Man, just no connection. So I made the tweet that it was like Godfather Part 2. Like Godfather Part 2, no one's going to say that Godfather Part 2 is a bad movie. And because Godfather Part 2 has such incredible performances, and makes you feel so much. But at the same time, like the plot doesn't make any sense at all. Like Godfather Part 2 is ridiculous. Like it starts out, all of these people are murdered on their compound, and he has to figure out who murdered them. And it turns out it was his incompetent brother, but not, because he let the information go as a leak. It's the whole premise of the movie is ridiculous. But aren't dragons hermaphrodites? Maybe, but we're talking about like what the maesters write and like what is and so like why do they use the term she dragon? Maybe Daron is transgender. That's true. We'll see. We have no idea. We have no idea. Maybe he was a woman the whole time, like hiding, and they wanted another boy. Laris is a secret Beesbury. Beesbury is a loyal black to the end. Poor guy. Poor guy. Nuclear weapons don't have genders. No, it's true that the dragons probably are hermaphrodites and probably like can change their sex at will. George conflates sex and gender in the books, but they can change their sex at will. It seems like to, but I think like they use the term she dragon just because no such thing as a she dragon. They should be referred to as birthing dragons. It's true, but yeah, this is just the well, again, we're conflating gender and sex, but yes, it should be that the dragons don't really have sex. We have no idea if they have genders. I mean, but yeah. This episode is 10 out of 10 because they confirmed Grover Tully. It seems like they were gonna get Recalio Rendoon. Bravo, Ryan Condal. Yeah, they did do a bunch of mentioning of Recalio Rendoon, and they made the Stepstones War. Man, the Stepstones War is twice as long as it is in the source material. But it's funny because they mentioned Grover Tully's son, and they're like, we can't have too many Muppets in one scene, so they like purposely mentioned Grover and then didn't mention his son, which I think is Elmo. But yeah, Elmo, and then Elmo has Kermit and Oscar. Um, what did she do that? What did Allison do that was that bad? She's convincing everyone that Rhaenyra is going to murder her children when Rhaenyra does not have that intention. Rhaenyra put forward a marriage pact that would have solved everything in this episode, and Allison um, did not accept it. Allison's been spreading rumors around that Rhaenyra's children are bastards. She didn't accept the marriage between Helena and Jace. Like, she just was bitterly mean to like Laenor for no reason. She keeps the company of Sir Criston Cole, a murderer, a cold-blooded murderer, and this guy is her freaking champion. And I think she put Criston Cole up to the situation in the yard to try to out Harwin. So Alicent is the worst person. Well, I mean, Criston Cole's the worst person, but actually, I mean, Larry Strong is the worst person. But once we go down the list, she also hangs out with Larry Strong. Like, oh my gosh! And now that Larry's like revealed himself to be a murderer, she's probably gonna still hang out with him. You know, so she's dreadful. There's nothing likable about any of the characters. Trying to think of like what characters we are left to like besides Beesbury. I guess Rhaenyra hasn't done anything that bad yet, but Daemon is a cold-blooded murderer. Criston Cole is a cold-blooded murderer. Alicent is scheming for war. I mean, these children are fairly innocent right now, but so I guess we can like the children. But you know, the only adult so far that hasn't been an absolute monster is Rhaenyra, and we kind of know she's going to be a monster later. So, it's Vagar, not Vegar. Pronunciation doesn't matter. The Valyrians. Is Larys trying to start a war? I think so. I think Larys is trying to start a war. I think he is trying to kill off dragons. He's the only connection. He's just really committed. He's really freaking committed. Aemon's scene with the dragon was the darkest. Him trying to with Dreamfire. I don't know. I mean, he just kind of goes in there and is scared, right, and then runs out. But Harwin Strong's pull-out game is not strong. That is true. Not in the book. Not in the show here. Not in the show. Like the strongest knight in the Seven Kingdoms is going to pull out. The thing is, Jace still might be Criston Cole's. We have no idea about it. So let's see here. Lucky bro, almost every half Valyrian blood child is a dragon rider idiot. All right, Tozy. You're getting banned. Well, let's find you. Oh man, I'll find you later. I'm gonna write your name down. This is what's great about having your own channel, is you get to do this shit. All right, unless I get an apology. But no, that's not true at all. Okay, because there's lots of people like I mean, oh my god, like there's so few dragon riders period in Targaryen history at this point. Like so few period. Like none of like 3 of Jaehaerys's children rode dragons. 3. All all of those other kids who were like full blooded weren't able to ride dragons. The fact that all of a sudden they're all riding now is really quite weird, and that all of a sudden there is a dragon explosion. Okay, so it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like Emma Aaron, for example, is half Targaryen. Did she ride a dragon? No. Like it's such a huge risk. She wants to have all of her children be dragon riders for coming war. Um, so like to ensure that, you would want to have a Valyrian blooded person to be the father. Like choosing it's only because like you could argue that Rhaenyra is so freaking like double X gened, like she's so pumped with with Valyrian blood because Rhaenyra is super special, and let's be honest, Rhaenyra is super special. It's only because she's super special that her half-blooded children could conceivably fly as well. Um, but no, there's like just factually incorrect, like factually incorrect. Hardly any Targaryens get to ride dragons, like hardly any, a minority. Oh man. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Vegar is described as a she-dragon in the book, as is Tarsarian. So is Syrax. So is Meleys. I'm trying to remember. So is Dreamfire. I'm trying to remember them all. But and I don't know if Caraxes is. Caraxes' first rider is also a woman though. But I don't know if I don't think Caraxes is actually. But but certainly Vagar, certainly Meleys, certainly Dreamfire, certainly Syrax, certainly Vagar, certainly Tessarian. Um didn't she drink moon tea with Lancel? Actually, I think in the show, no. Lancel specifically says that he pulls out with Cersei. He, but yeah. Are you assuming that her and Laenor have sex as well? I'm assuming they don't. Well, I'm assuming that he's that they want, like, if you, I think here in the show, maybe the assumption is that they don't, but certainly in the book, like you would go through that effort. Or they say some weird things in this where she says, "Oh, these are your kids," and Laenor says something odd and snide, but that implies that they're also having sex occasionally too, even in the show. So I think they're having sex both situations, but big model. I have to look at if the model is grown at all. I don't know if Viserys has. We're talking about the Valyria. Like we have to look into how, if it's grown again. He doesn't look like he was playing with it as much. Daron is time traveling Dario Naharis. Actually, Recalia Rendoon is time traveling Dario Naharis. Um, Allison is a bit of a hypocrite, isn't she? She manipulated the king and then hates her best friend because of what she did. There's a logical middle. Um, Allison is absolutely a hypocrite. In fact, I'd say that the implication of the show is that she had sex with Viserys before they were married too. But I think, but this is the way like moral police are. Like if you've met these people in real life, it's always like they're always enforcing morality on everybody else but never themselves, you know. I once had a horrible boss that like would like stand in the hall and make sure I was like at work on time, like every day. And like, sometimes the bus would be late, and like I was never late more than 6 minutes, but it was like a huge deal. But of course she like was late and came and go as she pleased. Like it was ridiculous. Like this is the way people are, like these uptight people. Like they can do what they want because it's less about morality and it's more about control. Like they don't really care about the morality. It's not like Allison just really sitting there going, "Oh, Faith of the Seven, this is what the mother would want." No, like, you know, she cares about power and control and controlling people. And that's what these things are. They're not really like clutching their pearls thinking about um, the implications globally. Because if they, or in a divine sense, because if they were, then they'd let their god or gods sort it out. They'd be like, well, like they would be like, well, if they may be sinning over there, but who am I to judge? Like when we all die, like they'll face it, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But these moral types, they always want to control everybody. They want to force everybody not to do their immorality, because it's all about power for them. It's not really about about anything else. And that's what they've made Allison into. But yes, she's absolutely a hypocrite. She's supposed to be a hypocrite, and there's so many people like her in this world. Um, you know, so many people like her. Mm, 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 mm. Um, oh my God, Allison brought up that she didn't understand how the dragon eggs hatched. That's a huge lean towards genetics of dragons. It's true. The I mean, at least in this like general sense, like the I mean, it's kind of funny coming from her now that we like analyze it. Like, okay, in a general sense, if you don't know anything like much about genetics, you could at least have like the Viserys the Third kind of opinion of like, well, we need to keep like blood pure. And I've seen analysis of like dragon stuff where they talk about like how pure. Like I've seen Reddit posts about like how pure is Daenerys's blood, as if like blood thins at the same rate as say like juice and water. Like, oh, how sweet is this going to be? Because now it's 50% juice. How sweet is it going to be now that it's 25% juice? How sweet is this going to be now that it's 12.5% juice? And, when you get down to somebody like Daenerys and all the interbreeding and intermarriage in the Targaryen line, she actually has very little Targaryen blood in her, in that sense, in the purity sense, like comparing it to like juice to water. But we kind of know that genetics works with genes, recessive genes. So it's a weird statement that Allison, who is not Targaryen, like she should expect her children's eggs hatched, that she would make the comment about Rhaenyra. And it's this assumption that everything goes down the male line, which a lot of people do because of houses, right? Like, oh, he's got the Targaryen name, he's got the Targaryen blood, and people think about this with Starks a lot. Oh, well, he's a Stark, and therefore he needs to be able to warg. Well, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, Starks have been intermarrying for many many generations. Like, why would Stark males, unless it's attached to the Y chromosome? Of course, they have no knowledge of any of this kind of stuff. Um, and I think one of the reasons I like the genetics of dragon theory that I created was that it highlights the fact that like this is a woman thing attached to an X chromosome, and that the women are the things that are the people that are important, and the Targaryen, like the houses, are the things that like the male line is what we think about with these houses, but really the female line is what's really important. Um, uh, and George includes a lot of this stuff in there, like about how uh, um, Bran's love of climbing comes from his Flint grandmother, or the fact that Sansa meets the Waynwoods and they all have horse faces, and she's like, oh, these homely horse faced people, and it's like the joke is they got it from the Starks down the female line. Like those Waynwoods are ugly because they're Starks. You're calling Starks ugly, and all these sorts of like fun female lineage stuff. Um, and not everything is Robert Baratheon black hair coming down patrilineally. So it's a funny statement because yeah, the fact that she said like her children are half Targaryen. Rhaenyra's in this would be half Targaryen. So like, shouldn't they have equal chance? And yeah, yeah, it was a very interesting little lampshade there. But yeah, I think as time, things go in, like unless she knows something about the High Tower line, um, or something, that's some interesting stuff in there. Um, dun, dun, dun. Oh, I saw a question about Emma Aaron's hair color, and I want to say that in the books we don't know Emma Aaron's hair color. It's never mentioned, and we don't know. And obviously, like her father's hair color is never mentioned. We have no idea. Emma Aaron's, like in the show here, they made her silver haired, but then they made Rainey silver haired too, and she's not. So, um, um, actually, Viserys is the one who's super special. If you think about it, Allison, no Valyrian blood. Right. Well, um, that's the idea. But I have this old theory video about the genetics of dragons in war, and like if it's just about one of the parents having the gene, then there's not much reason for um, Targaryens to lose the ability to hatch dragons. And there's also not much reason for why certain Targaryens in history are really hated and conspired against. So, for example, why was there this so much effort to keep Dreamfire Rhaena off the throne? Why was there so much effort to keep Rhaenys off the throne? Why was there so much effort to keep Rhaenyra off the throne? Why later is there so much effort to keep um, Dana off the throne, and why is there so much effort to keep Daemon Blackfire off the throne? Um, and my theory works really well as long as you accept that there's somehow a dragon riding gene in Allison. That's the big weak. I'm not saying that's not a huge weakness. It's a huge weakness, but the fact that like if you follow the Dragon X theory, everything kind of fits except for Alicent and her children being dragon riders. Because if Viserys just has one X, he can only pass it to women, so only Helena would be a dragon rider. And so, what's the explanation for for Daeron and Aegon and Aemond all riding dragons? And the only explanation that I would have is that Alicent must have had an X gene somehow. But that's I haven't. It's actually been many years since I watched my own series on that, so I've gotta look into that. Alicent is supposed to be your stereotypical religious zealot. I think so too. I think she is. Um, that if she's representing Hightower, right? We light the way, like defenders of the faith, defenders of the citadel. Yeah. Um, Weird though that she didn't tell Aegon to stop his masturbating. But again, it's like morality for everybody else, not for her own. Um, and later she's gonna marry Aegon to Helena, so all of a sudden it's like incest is immoral for everybody else, but not for my children. Ugh, and more dragons. Who belongs to who again? Um, okay, well, Aegon the Second rides a new dragon called Sunfire. Aemond, which they established hasn't gotten a dragon, will eventually take Vegar. Daeron, their other kid that hasn't appeared, is going to ride a dragon named Tessarion. Helena is going to take Dreamfire, and then Jace rides Arax, Luke, Vermax, and Joffrey Vermithor. Not Vermithor. Shit. What's the last one? Joffrey Valarian. He rides. It's something weird. Arax, you're come on. My here we finally. He rides Tyraxes. Tyraxes. I screwed up the last one. Yeah, but essentially, this dragon pit has just been filled with a bunch of dragons this whole time, and we off screen, all of these dragons have been sitting around for decades, unridden, including like Silverwing, Vermithor, Dreamfire, um, all these dragons that like previous Targaryens rode, that just no one's gotten on top of them. Not to mention, like on Dragonstone, there's Sheep Stealer and Cannibal and Grey Ghost. So a whole bunch of these dragons floating around. Um, but man, oh man, who belongs to whom? It's tough. It's not really it's not really uh important, like their names too much. I think it's important to know about Vegar, because Aemond and Vegar are going to be pretty important. And then some of these loose dragons, the ones that the dragon seeds eventually claim, become kind of important. But for the most part, if you know the dragon rider, it doesn't really matter. The dragon, because they're not hopping and switching. So like Vagar, you kind of need to know the dragon because the rider switches. But a lot of these people, like, they're only going to ride one dragon, and that dragon's going to die with them when they die, and it's not really important to know the dragon independent of the rider, like it is for, say, the old, Mealy's, Caraxes, Vagar, like they all had previous riders, Tessarion, Silverwing, and things like that. But so like, what I mean, even I just screwed up like Joffrey's dragon Tyraxes, so it doesn't really matter. Was Preston's boss Hillary Clinton? Yeah, at one time. One time she was my boss. I mean, it's not like I ever talked to her. I passed by her in the hall a couple times. Um, let's see. Daron is not Dario. Daron is Sorella San. Ah, that explains it. What if Daron is a woman the entire time and he's been pretending to be a boy? And that's the reason why Tessarion is a she-dragon. Maybe. Um, I'm Spartosicus. Also, did George R. R. Martin intend that Targaryens can heal from FASD, or is that just incongruous casting? Queen She-Hulk versus Venom Princess. The oh, Targaryens can heal from fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. Um, Queen She-Hulk versus Venom Princess. I mean, we're saying like if Alicent or Rhaenyra are big alcoholics, if these kids can heal and become like sane again. Um, I'm trying to think about this because, like, I guess Alicent's kids are not ever described as being all there. It's true. I'll grant, but but hmm, was it from her alcoholism, or is it just that like Targaryens are crazy and stuff like that? That's an interesting thing. I don't think I ever considered the fact that they were that Allison's kids might be all off because she was boozing it up. It's certainly a possibility. That's interesting though. Um, they've certainly played it down here in the show. I mean, I think they just describe Helena as like a simple girl, and Aemon is clearly nuts. And then Daron, I don't know if Daron even has much of a personality because he's young. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting idea that it's actually from the boozing and not from the Targaryens being nuts. Like maybe Targaryens aren't nuts. Like maybe the whole incest crazy thing is actually wrong, and they're just all like they're all from like drug use from royalty or something. Um, but yeah, yeah. But I get the Venom Princess because it's blacks versus greens, so it's She-Hulk versus Venom there on that. Um, Aegon and Aemon look like evil vampires from the last Twilight movie. I agree that when I first saw their pictures, I was like, "Ugh, these guys look pretty evil." But then once they start talking, they're actually a little more likable than than how they look. You know, Aegon has some charm to him, and Vaymond. I mean, Aemond at least when had a little bit of like you gained a little bit of sympathy for him because people were making fun of him and he seemed upset over it. But certainly when I first saw the way they looked, I was like, oh, these guys are creepy looking. They look like they should be living out in Fork. Um, but I think the actors made them into likable kids, So, um, so why is Clubfoot guy killing his own brother or dad? So the idea is that either one, he's nuts. These aren't mutually exclusive excuses. So either he's nuts, and or he's right now they're saying they're trying to portray it like he's doing it for self gain, but it's probably not self gain. So the real answer is probably that he's part of some conspiracy. He's part of probably like I think they're going full on conspiracy, Maester conspiracy in this. We've just seen too many hints that there's some sort of high tower conspiracy going on. That that they're definitely doing it. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, geez, if we want to add up all the conspiracy like stuff that we've seen, okay, we've seen that Otto Hightower was in league with Melos doing various stuff. We've seen arguments between Melos and Orwyle on treatment for Viserys. We've seen Otto's older brother commanding him to do things in the name of House Hightower. Um, and then we've seen like weird like uh, rats watching everything, controlling everything with Laurie Strong. I think it's I don't know. I think it's pretty confirmed for me that they're going to do something with these conspiracy, with the Maester conspiracy, Hightower conspiracy. They introduced the Hightowers as now it's been a couple times that they've introduced them as defenders of the Citadel. So what they've probably cut is any mention of the Faith. Like the Faith has played a very small role, and the Faith plays a pretty big role when it comes in later with the death of dragons. Like there's a bunch of religious zealots show up at the dragon pit in Princess and the Queen. So um, source material wise, it's hard not to have the Faith being part of the conspiracy, but I think that's probably a little too complicated. So they're probably just going to go with Maester conspiracy. Um, da, 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 da. Allison, secret Targaryen. So when you talk about the theory that Allison is secretly a Targaryen, keep in mind that in the books, we don't really know how many Hightowers look. So we've met one Hightower in person, and that character was a Leary Hightower who was married to Mace Tyrell, and she had silver hair. And you say, okay, well maybe she's old, and it's like no, when you actually like do the math, like she's probably in her 40s. When Mace married her and things like this. So um, it's weird that this character has silver hair. Now, some women go gray in their 40s, okay, but um, so we've got one Hightower with silver hair. Then second character that we know the looks of is Lyness Hightower, which um, Jorah Mormont describes having golden hair. Keep in mind that Targaryens in the books don't just have platinum blonde hair; they have silver or gold hair, sometimes both. So she has golden hair and she looks like Daenerys. So that's point two. And also in the source material, Allison Hightower reads to Jaehaerys, and Jaehaerys confuses her for his daughter Sarah. And you could say, well, could he just confusing her for anybody or any woman? Is he obsessed with Sarah? Like, sure. Or it could be that she looks Targaryen and she actually looks like Sarah. Now, that said, the pictures that they've used to portray Allison Hightower in Fire and Blood have brown hair, but the actual like text does not tell us what they look like. So those are the only three Hightowers that we have any vague understanding of what they look like. So we have one with silver hair, one that looks like Daenerys with golden hair, and one that maybe looks like Sarah Targaryen. So you've got, maybe there's something with the Hightowers looking Targaryen, because we know that some Danes seem to have some Targaryen features, because Darkstar has silver hair and Ashara Dane has violet eyes. So we have another house in that region that has some Targaryen looks to them. So this is the idea that maybe the Hightowers also have a look to them. Now, there's two stories actually that there were dragons in Westeros in olden days, like Age of Heroes times. And that is Serwyn of the Mirror Shield approaches the dragon Urax to kill it, and then a dragon appears in the story of Jonquil and Florian. So there were, at least according to stories, dragons in Westeros long ago. The Danes and the Hightowers, they go back to the Age of Heroes, their old houses. Could there be something with dragon riding back then? Who knows? We don't. It's a lot of big mysteries. So who knows? Long explanation for a very obscure theory that's probably never going to be mentioned in the show or any future books, because no future books are ever going to come out. They have to play up the visual differences between the two sets of kids. Got to make it obvious for the normies. They made it super obvious for the normies. Like, they couldn't just have the hair. The hair would have been enough. It would have. Did they need all the longing looks and the final thing of the kid being like, "Is he my dad?" Like, you're Targaryen. That's all that matters. Like, what? Really, just pounded it home. Aemond, you don't look like a person for a pet nuclear weapon. None of them should have nuclear weapons. Yeah, I have an aunt who went gray in her early 20s. Her hair looks like Latin of silver to this day. That was her. Yeah, sure. Well, could be any of this, or maybe the math was wrong and she's a little older or whatever, or maybe she could also have silver hair and not be a dragon rider or have that blood too. So yeah, the Danes are old too. Yes, the Danes are very old. So is Aegon II secretly Homelander? Yes, it does seem to be. Early in the stream we talked about this a little. That Aegon, he seems to have a weird connection with his mom. He has weird sexual fetishes. He's also sometimes really personable, and then sometimes, if we're going by the book, super angry and out of nowhere. So he's definitely the Homelander character, but he is. They're just essentially just saying that he's nuts. He's a Targaryen. He's nuts. Illyri and Lyness Hightower are likely Rhaena the second descents. So this is another weird point. So when we're talking about the Targaryen lineage, so there is Daemon Targaryen's daughters with Laena are Baela um, and what's the Rhaena, right? So and then one of them gets married off and has like 6 kids. Yeah, Baela gets married to Alan Valarian, who has another Lena. Somebody, I think there's something with somebody having 6 daughters. But the point is that there's other Targaryens that go from the Rhaena. I'm sorry, Rhaena, daughter of Daemon, marries a Hightower and has 6 daughters. And you say, oh, so definitely like some Targaryen blood gets passed there, and then there's Baela with the Oaken Fist. So Daemon Targaryen's daughter's lineage is never really addressed again, and there's plenty of Targaryen blood in them to affect story. So this is where he's saying that like perhaps because these daughters were Hightowers, and then eventually they get married back into the Hightower line because all these houses practice incest, that they got their silver hair from Daemon Targaryen and Lena Valarian, which is certainly a possibility, but that wouldn't help explain like Allison's children and their ability to fly dragons. But there's so many Targaryens now floating around. I joke that like Targaryens are like Star Wars Jedi. They're like, oh, I'm the last Targaryen, except for the many other Targaryens that are out there. Like, you've got all the Blackfires, and you have Aerion Brightflame, and you have Sarah Targaryen, and you have Baela and Rhaena's like children, and not to mention like the swapped children of Arya, and like when they were made like daughters into the faith, and whatever happened to those women, all of these people. Like, was Arya Targaryen swapped, and what happened to her? Did she just stay with the faith her whole life? And it just goes on and on. There's so many Targaryens floating around. Not to mention whatever Brown Ben Plum and all of that. It's just, and all of the people that Aegon the Unworthy was banging, because he banged everybody, So it's just, there's so many that it's just that these like it waters down the whole like I'm the last dragon kind of thing. Like when there's just another one. Oh right, Return of the Jedi. Luke Skywalker, the Last Jedi returns. No, well he's not. He's not the Last Jedi, because there's a million others. There's a million others floating around. Let's see here. The fandom supports Rhaenyra, but not sure if she's presented as incompetent and irresponsible. Will people be angry at how she acts during the dance? I think some people perceived her going out with Daemon and then fucking Kristen Cole as a pretty irresponsible move. Here, if she's banging Harwin Strong and producing Harwin Strong children, that's pretty irresponsible, which goes against like how Emma Darcy is choosing to play her, and all of the other scenes of her being quite like smart and savvy and thinking about the future. Like Emma Darcy's playing her like, I am focused. I am a focused individual. Prince that was promised. Let's get this shit done. Oh yeah, I was actually, banging Harwin Strong and have 3 of Harwin Strong's children, and didn't bother like producing heirs with oh my god, it's just so stupid. Like, one, you want to ensure that you have 3 dragon riding children, but also you want to ensure that you're aligned with the Velaryons, who have the fleet, and Rhaenys, who flies dragons, like, and Lena, who has Vegar, and like you would never, ever, ever, ever want to piss off the Velaryons. You would never want to piss them off. Like, why would you do that? Which is why, like, it's such a good argument that actually they're Laenors the whole time. Because it's such a stupid, boneheaded, incompetent move for Rhaenyra to do that. It's so reckless for her to have children with Harwin Strong. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what is going on in her head? What's going on in her head? And granted, this is like, these are seeds planted by George R. R. Martin, and it's like, I don't fault somebody for reading Fire and Blood and being like, well, this is the interpretation that I got, because he pushes really strongly that they're Harwin Strong's children in the text, and you have to be kind of a savvy reader to be like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Is there really any proof that they're Harwin Strong's children? What about everybody else's looks? Because we don't know what Harwin Strong looks like. We don't know what Emma Aaron looks like. There's so many excuses once you kind of like read the text carefully. But it's like, I don't fault somebody for coming to this conclusion, but it's such an illogical move. Like, it's just boneheaded. It's so boneheaded. Like, oh, I'm the prince that was promised, and there's going to be this like really important day that I'm going to have to lead for, and so I'm going to piss off half of the dragon riders in the fucking world. It's just ridiculous. Like, Lena is married to Daemon. Rhaenys and Laenor have dragons. That means, they could have conquered the kingdom by themselves. The fact that they don't conquer the kingdom and aren't just like, taking over and pushing Viserys aside, like, doesn't make any sense either. But they have all the dragons. Like, why would you jeopardize? Why would you jeopardize that stuff? It's just silly. It's silly. Doesn't make any sense. Dark Star, what up, Hotatu? Yeah, people are writing. I already got a submission for Hotatu, so Hotatu is going to be fun. I can't wait to hear people's like interpretation on Dark Star as a character. Oh God, will they include Bela's monkey? Oh, let me remind myself about this monkey. You're right. They really should have this monkey, because Bela gets a monkey from Sotheros, and there is some reference to like people saying like, oh, that Bela's monkey is more competent. Is there just one reference to Bela's monkey? I can't believe what a weird reference. I guess there's just, what a weird reference. It's just like this one random reference. They're my fleets now. Bela's monkey is more suited to command than my nuncle. What? She has a monkey? They really need to include this monkey. Like, why wouldn't you include Bela's monkey? Just take out everything fun. So some people were saying that she had a pet monkey. That's it. Like, they need this monkey needs a spin-off. Bela's monkey. That's it. She just had a pet monkey, and it's mentioned once. But yeah, they should include it. I had forgotten about this monkey. Now it's ringing a bell, but it's so random. Oh man. Aegon behaves like a regular teenager to me, pulls stunts on his brother, jacks off on the regular. Is kind of a dumbass, but not malicious. You're right. He is kind of just a regular teenage boy. I mean, I suppose if you were sleeping as a teenage boy, if you're sleeping in a bell tower, would you jerk out off the window. I don't know. Maybe teenage boys do crazy stuff. Um, yeah, yeah. All right. I accept that logically speaking, he's just acting like a normal boy, but the writers are trying to see that he's off. Even though, like, for instance, like Helena having some bugs and counting bug legs and being into bugs, like that's what kids do too. But they definitely introduced like the bugs to try to make Helena seem off, even though playing with bugs is what kids do. Like, like they're trying to make them seem weird by having like the one thing they're doing, like make them seem off. But you're right that like that's just what all kids do. All kids like play with bugs and jerk off in weird places and act cruel at one moment and then like fun and nice in the next and things like that. Yeah, yeah. It's just that these kids they only get like one or two scenes to define them. And so we're like, well, I guess we're going to go with that one or two scenes, rather than it just being like a random thing. Um, why did Lena kill herself? Pain or scarred she was going to get Aemon? I love her. I think it was something about they when they were flying, she was talking about wanting to die like a warrior or something, die like a dragon rider. So unfortunate, each actress did what they could with that character. Considering we had three Lenas, right? So we get these tiny little scenes, and like scene one, she's really interested in Vegar, and then scene two, she's interested in Daemon because he's a dragon rider, and then scene three, she's a dragon rider, and she wants to die a dragon rider, and that's all we freaking know about her, other than the fact that she's a somewhat caring mother. They give her a caring mother scene and then she dies. So we just have to accept that it's like she wants to die like a dragon rider rather than just dying she wants to die in fire than rather than dying in the birthing bed. I think that was it. I think that's all there is to it. I don't even like obviously the scenes were supposed to parallel, but I don't know if Lena was specifically thinking about Emma. Because Damon wasn't going to do it. He didn't do it. He didn't have her cut open. Um, um, Cast change, unaged. Jason Momoa and Damon BF retcon Drogo as Dragon X carrier in Sweet Robin 9000 fanfic prequel. Half a horse, warg, battle king. Well, that's there's a lot to process there. I don't think we're going to be seeing any too much retconning or retroactive like placing in of future actors or time traveling Bran or anything like that. I also wonder if we're going to see less of the werewood now that Rhaenyra isn't going to it doesn't like hanging out in front of it, and it's if they're not living in the same place. I wonder. I'm gonna guess they already have the set, so I guess we're gonna have some scenes in front of that werewood, but it's gonna mean less. But I mean, I don't know if they're going to go with the Dragon X theory. It's not in the source material in any sort of explicit way. But or Hightowers having Valyrian blood or anything like that. I don't think they're gonna bother with it. They're just gonna kind of go forward. Like right now, seeing this episode and seeing like their desire to wrap up loose ends and to wrap up things that don't make sense, they don't seem to have much desire to do that. It's kind of like go forward, boom, boom, boom. Some things are ambiguous, some things are explicit, some things don't make sense, doesn't matter, go forward, boom, 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 time skip, time skip. I think that we're just plowing ahead. Let the fans figure out what happened in between because we're not going to explain it. What really grinds my gears is that no one addressed Sir Crispin and Cole straight up murdered somebody. Did no one even ask, dude, what's up between you and that highborn you just punched to death? It's as good as this episode was, it makes episode 5 worse because nothing was Nothing was explained. Like the only thing we got was a lingering look from Lenore for 2 seconds, which I just wouldn't, it also just weirds me out in general that Rhaenyra has so much less power than Alicent. It just doesn't seem to be how I would expect the pecking order to be. Like, your heir, your dragon rider, you had the full respect of your father last episode. It was the two of you planning together, talking about the prince that was promised. Like, and then all of a sudden, Allison's taken over the kingdom, and Kristen Cole is just given a pass. And then we have a parallel scene where he's punched in the face, and the guy who punches him doesn't even kill him, gets punished, gets sent home, gets fired from his job and sent home. So it was like, I think I think at this point we can all accept that, like, that Joffrey Lonmouth was the worst scene of the entire series. Like, it's just like, we really had a scene where someone dropped his pants and farted into the camera and then had his balls cut off and had the balls shown to us on a stump. And I'm like, that's like down the list of really horrible scenes. Like, we've had some really bad things. Like, I would say that the tourney is worse, and I would say that the death of Rhea Royce is worse, and I'd say that the all-time worst thing that they've had has been the death of Joffrey Lonmouth. Like, it just was so stupid. It was so stupid. But if we take this episode as like a new and take it as a pilot in itself, I suppose we can, it by itself is a good episode. It's just not, it's not in a series of episodes anything. Because like I say, like, there's no transition for any of these characters. No transition. Like, all of the characters are completely different except for Laurie Strong. Viserys' explanation was excellent. I really loved that scene. That was a great scene. And the fact that they like linked it back to the nature, like Laurie Strong's like mention of the Malvales. Like, that was a really excellent scene. It brought it just explained things so simply and clearly. And it would have, had they left it with just the against the hair color stuff, we would have had something for the fans to debate. And maybe, I think they went a little strong on the glances between Rhaenyra and Harwin, but had they just had that, I think that they ruined it with Jace running out and being like, "Is he my father?" I think that was a bad move, because one, you're taking away from the fact that, like, I mean, I guess they didn't take. I mean, he can still be Kristen Cole's kid, and maybe that was the explanation. But we'll see. We'll see about Kristen Cole's kid. Maybe she was. I mean, I'm gonna. This is my honeypot. So when I use the term honeypot, honeypot is a term invented by this website that I liked, called the Fundamentals. The women that used to analyze Game of Thrones, they're not doing anything for House of the Dragon, which is too bad. But they invented this term honeypot to refer to when Talisa showed up in season 2 of Game of Thrones. It was a really stupid idea. Okay, Talisa was really dumb. Like, why would there be this woman on her own from Volantis, like, on a battlefield of all places where men are acting nuts and crazy, and where this is a world where women can't walk alone, and you're talking about women being on the middle of the battlefield, and then the king is going to come along and she's going to sass a king and start like being negative to him. And so it made no sense, like, why they replaced Jane Westerling with Talisa. And so people started like making excuses and saying, well, maybe she's like, she was sent there by the Lannisters and she's a honeypot. Honeypot is when like a government worker abroad or something, like, all of a sudden has a woman seduce him and then try to extort information or whatever. They call that a honeypot. This is the kind of thing, like, You know, they try to get blackmail. The Chinese government or the Russian government will send a hot woman to seduce a government agent, and then all of a sudden they'll be extracting information and blackmail and stuff like that. The guy will be married or something. So they call that a honeypot. So Talisa became the honeypot. Like there was a honeypot theory that to somehow justify that, like how dumb the Talisa plot was, because the Talisa plot was stupid. And so it became this term, like anytime you've got a good explanation or a fan explanation for something that's stupid, you can have a honeypot, right? Okay, so here's my honeypot. Kristen Cole is the father of Jace. And the reason that she wants to have more kids with dark colored hair is to protect Jace. Because if the other kids have silver hair, then they would make Jace look strange. But the exact opposite happened in this episode. She was trying to find at least one that had silver hair, to prove that like all of them were bastards. So I don't know, but it's still open. It's still left open. Even that conversation at the end is Harwin my father, and she says you're half Targaryen. She doesn't want to say like no, Harwin's not your father, but if she said like Laenor Valarian's your father, she'd be lying too. So she can't be like Kristen Cole's your father. So maybe they left it open that Kristen is the father. I mean, we don't know if she took the moon tea. I think I think this is intentional, but they're leaving it open that Kristen Cole is the father of Jace. They cut a scene with Daemon comforting his children after Lena's death, and it pissed me off that they have to cut so much to start the dance at episode 10. I mean, I agree. I think that this should have been the start of season 2. I think I would have accepted a season break, because, you know, had we been given a year to understand that these characters are growing and changing, versus a week to accept that these characters are growing and changing. I know people go, oh, logically speaking, it's been 10 years. Yes, logically speaking, it's been 10 years, but narratively speaking, it's been one episode in 1 week. So you can't just suddenly have a completely different character. I understand that logically speaking, 10 years later, people become completely different characters. Yes, but narratively speaking, it's been 1 week. It's been 1 week and it's been one episode. Had they done this at the season break, had episode 5 been episode 10, had they added B-plots, the Lyseni B-plot, Stark B-plot, extended out the events, 10 episodes, ended the season, and then we started, this was the season premiere, I think it would have gone over better. Yeah, I mean, it's strange, Daemon, because they even have a scene between Lena and one of the daughters, I don't know if it's Bela or Rhaena, that Daemon is like ignores her, so they somehow think that he's a bad father. I guess he ignores her because she's not a dragon rider, and he doesn't care about daughters that's not a dragon rider or something like that. But it would have been nice to have something, but Daemon's character is all over the place. I can't wait for the Dark Star cringe. I've asked people to add some Dark Star cringe to Hota 2 in order to make him true. Dark Star, right? Preston, what's with the British slang in this episode? I'm trying to remember which British slang they used. I mean, I know that earlier they were using cunt and stuff, which is, calling people a cunt is not that Americans don't do it, but it's certainly much more a British thing. I'm trying to think of, maybe someone can remind me of some other Britishisms that they used. I'm not sure if they, showing your dad the inside of a prego cat is 100% normal as well. I'm not going to say that's normal, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world. Okay, for kids. Okay, kids are fucking weird. Okay, kids are weird. They do shit like that. Um, do we learn anything about how she got Vagar by the fact that she said she got a dragon at age 15? I'm piecing together the timeline because so Lena is a year older than um Lena is a year older than Lenore. And Lenore is old enough to get married. Um which we assume is around 16, that he's of age. So that means Lena should be like 17 in the wedding scene. But I think they also aged, but she's 12, right? In episode 2. But then there's been a 3-year jump. And so she should only be 15. I mean, the timeline's weird, okay? The timeline's weird. Okay? Cuz she's specifically 12 years old, right? In episode 2. And then we flash forward 3 years because Aegon is 2. So that means it's been, the time to the wedding, 9 months pregnancy, 2 years to make Aegon. So the third episode is 3 years later. And then the next episode, she goes on a trip for a suitor for many, many months. And then the next episode, they're pretty much planning for a marriage, right? And getting the marriage. So there's not that much time passing. So timeline wise, it seems like she needs to have had that dragon when she was talking to Daemon. So at some point, she got Vegar. No one mentioned anything. She didn't fly Vegar to the wedding, though, which doesn't make any sense. Right? Because Rhaenys, we saw Sea Smoke and we saw Meleys. Had Lena had a dragon, she should have been flying that dragon to the wedding. So now they're saying that Lena was only 15. She had not claimed the dragon yet. She claimed it right after. I mean, maybe is the implication that like she meets Daemon and she's like, "Hey, can you fly me to find Vagar?" And maybe he helped her mount the dragon. And then she got it, so she'd be 15 at the wedding scene. But that means Lenore would be 14, unless they've swapped the ages and made Lenore the elder. She should have had the dragon already by the wedding. She should have been flying the dragon to the wedding. She didn't fly the dragon to the wedding, which means she would have gotten the dragon after the wedding, which means she'd be 15. But that makes... Oh, God. Yeah. Okay, you're breaking the timeline. You're breaking the timeline, okay? None of it makes... The Velaryon timeline does not make sense. Okay. All right. Lana didn't get the lucky fireproof jeans. Wouldn't that be hilarious? She like goes out there to die, and they're like, and then the fire clears, and she's still alive, and she's like, "No, kill me! No, come on, let me die!" she won't burn. She's like, "No, damn it!" The dragon has to like crush her with his foot. Back in the honeypot conversation. Okay. Lena was roughly 16 in episode 5, I guess, but she's and this is but she didn't take she didn't take her dragon to the wedding. Maybe she didn't take the dragon to the wedding because Vagar doesn't fit in the dragon pit. But it's still really weird to not take Vagar to the wedding. We don't know. We don't know, like, because the kids are also like those girls. Are they supposed to only be like 8? Like, when is he marrying her, and when are they having kids? Are they really 9? Big Chungus. What's Chungus? Oh, Big Chungus, sung by Indigo. Oh, this seems to be a meme that I don't know, but Big Chungus. It's a meme featuring Bugs Bunny. Big Chungus. Adorably chunky. Huh. David finally got it up. That's really weird, right? They established like many episodes, like that Damon's got erectile dysfunction, and then he can't get it up, and he can only get it up. They established he only get it up when he's in control. And Lena doesn't seem like somebody that is someone he can control. She seems like a pretty independent woman. So it's yeah, Lena was a fox. But, middle Lena was a fox too. I'm not going to say anything about younger Lena. Lena hot. Um, what do you think of Aegon? I hope they don't make him into another Joffrey. I think they are going to make him into. I think they're going to make him a little nuts, but I don't think you can't be more nuts than Aemond. So Aemond is going to get all the attention at looking like they're nuts. So um, that's it, right? So Targs are not fireproof. They're not fireproof in the book. Daenerys seems to be fully fireproof in the show, because she does it twice. Like, it wasn't a one-time thing, but it's very clear the Targs are not fireproof in the book, because in the Daenerys does get burned in the book, but we'll see. Fire resistant is not dragon fireproof. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're talking about the different temperatures of heat and things like this. But who knows? Who knows how hot that pyre looks like it's pretty hot. So who knows? But they seem to be a pretty healthy relationship. I mean, as healthy as Daemon could possibly be in. But maybe they did it on the back of the dragon. That might be it. It might be it. That it was like, yeah, on top of Vagar, I can get it up. Did they swap the ages? Maybe they did. Do you think they swapped Lena to be the old, Laenor to be the elder and Lena to be the younger? I don't know. Lena, Velaryon actress. Lena Velaryon actress is Swedish, actually. Her name is Nana Blondell, which is ironic considering they gave her a blonde wig. But yeah, she's Swedish, and she went to Stockholm Academy of Dramatic Arts, and they don't have too much about her background. Swedish. The Sweden has somewhat easier immigration policy than the rest of Europe. So it can sometimes be really hard for people even if they're born in countries in Europe, to have citizenship of that country. But Sweden, I think you kind of need 5-year residency or something. A friend of mine just became Swedish, an American. Um, you're reading far too much into his quitting sex early. He had other things on his mind both times. No, I mean, I think if you just watch the show, yeah, like maybe that's the case. But the problem is that the inside the episode had the showrunners specifically talking about how he had erectile dysfunction. Like normally, like had I just seen the show, it would be like, oh yeah, he had different reasons for either like stopping having sex with Massaria or leaving the brothel or the the Rhea thing was a little more explicit, but the showrunners like specifically said that he like couldn't get it up. So that's the only reason like why the fandom is like. I think we probably would have been a little bit in it. I think the Rhea Royce thing might have pushed everybody over the edge, but like um that I don't think the fandom would be talking about him being impotent had it not been the inside the episode afterwards. Oh, she calls him Nuncle? Nice. Nice. Nuncle. Um I don't remember Helena being a dreamer in the book. Is she? In the series she definitely is. She is not. There's nothing said in the books that about her having any special dreams or anything like that. Um Helena, there's very little said about her, period. A lot of these characters are completely invented. So, for instance, so Helena in the book, the only thing that's said about her pre kind of everybody starting to die is that she was a very happy, plump girl. That's all that's said about her. She's a nothing character. She's essentially a womb to birth some children. The book wise, Harwin Strong is not a character. He is not a character at all. Um, we have one implication that maybe he was the source for Air for a Day, and then he's just a dude. He's essentially just a sperm donor or a possible sperm donor because it's much more ambiguous in the show whether he is a sperm donor. But yeah, there's the fact that they made him this honorable guy who's like caring for like his children and like um and this sorts of stuff is completely invented. He was nobody. He was nobody. So they did a good, I did a good job. I like their characters. I like inventing nothing. I like them being something versus nothing. Thank you, Ethan. Uh the live stream is fun. Um let's see here. Silver Scale says hi, and I appreciate the stream. Nice. Um, why is Swedish being Swedish woke? This is the thing: is nothing is it'll never go away. These things, like I was watching House of the Dragon, or not House. I mean, I was watching House of the Dragon, obviously, but I was watching Rings of Power, and it's like there's all sorts of like legitimate criticisms you could have for Rings of Power, it being a really boring show or it taking really big liberties with the source material. Um, but like all of that, like no one will ever hear it. Like it's so like lost now in all of the stupid anti woke conversations that we like. There's now like no legitimate criticism of Rings of Power because it's just like do I really want to add to this pile that is like it's a boring show, like no, because like then I'll just be like another one of these like people that are like, oh, the reason that Rings of Power failed is that it was too woke. You're like, no, it's boring. Like that's it. That's all there is to it. It's just boring. um is Damon fireproof? He flew through those flames like it was nothing. That's a good question. I guess, he went through them fast enough, like when you take your hand through a candle or something. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything in either the book or the show to prove whether or not he's fireproof or not. Because Damon dies crashing a dragon into the ground. So um, I don't think we have any proof one way or the other if Damon is actually fireproof or not. So it's you know it is indeed boring, pretty and boring. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you meet those people in life. They're very, very pretty and they're very, very boring. Um, let's um, that's the thing. I mean, Rings of Power. The there are parts like each episode has something I like about in Rings of Power. But it is struggle to get through them because they're just I'd never watch them a second time. Like, but I do find things I like in every episode, and it's a beautiful, beautiful show. And I think it's fine. I think it's well acted. But when I ask myself like, what's happened, like when like it's been 5, 6 episodes, and you're like, explain the plot, and I'm like, well, this guy fell from the sky, and nothing has happened with that, and the orcs might be coming, and someone gets captured and escapes. The orcs might be coming, and this elf lands on an island that they don't like her, and they're mining for some ore. Like, so little has happened when you compare it to like House of the Dragon, where too much happens. You're like, oh my god, like Jesus, we needed like when I'm just like we needed 10 episodes. Like there's far too much going on. We needed 10 episodes to tell this story. Um, versus Rings of Power, where you're just like move, come on, move it, move along, move along. Um, yeah, no, but so I guess some people disagree. I mean, I don't think Rings of Power is boring, but um, I there's stuff I like though. So it's um but man, I could tell like last episode of Rings of Power, like when they pulled that Cimmerel thing, where I was just like, oh geez, like I know enough about like I'm not a casual with Lord of the Rings, but I'm not a super fan. Okay, I'm like somewhere in the middle. Okay, I'm never gonna claim I know all of these like super fan stuff, but I know enough to know that there was not a lost Cimmerel that went into a tree to create ore underneath the ground that if you don't get, elves are gonna die. Like that's it's a pretty big thing, right? Um, like it was kind of like if we were watching House of the Dragon, and all of a sudden they introduced I don't know. I'm trying to think of something like that'd be crazy, like demons. Like I mean, I guess there's the demon road in Valyria, but we introduce actual like fully sentient gargoyle demon like characters who are like, you know, a race that lives in Westeros. You'd be like, whoa, where did that come from? That's a big deviation from the source material. That gargoyles are like a race of people that live in like Cracklaw Point. Like that's nuts. And that they've been like intermarrying. Like people would say that's a little far to deviate from the source material. I think the I think the Cimmerel thing probably made some people shit their pants. um, Hi, Preston. About dating in general, when some men make the transition from being an asshole, misogynist, to a person who values and respects women? I think that's different for so many different people. I don't know if some men never make that transition, but I don't know. I mean, I will say that like hmm, I'm trying to think about like what I thought like in my life. The problem is I was I was never really um too much of a misogynist in my life. Like uh I think probably in high school I was the type of person that believed that I needed to make more than my wife. It was okay. It would be okay for my wife to earn money, but I would need to earn more. Now I think I lost that belief by the time I was 18. I'm trying to think of any other like misogynist kind of things like when I was in middle school when people like call each other girl and stuff like, oh, you throw like a girl, you hit like a girl. But keep in mind that like in high school I was in theater, and in college I was in theater. I was always around like I was the editor in chief of the literary magazine. Like I was always like into more artsy stuff. Even though I also did sports because but I had my first like group of bro friends when I was in college. Um, but even they were not misogynists by any like you know um, respect. Like so, when do men make the transition? I think men can make the transition. Obviously, I think it takes a long time for many of them to do it. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's very difficult. I think it's easy to be a misogynist if you don't have if you don't have sexually active female friends who are your peers um, in your life, and you don't understand like that's an important part of like women's life, that sex is an important part of women's lives. Um like if you're in the high school mode of like no one should be having sex and we can only have sex with somebody that's special, and you're still like putting women on a pedestal like, oh, I've got to protect my princess. And some men like meet women that like want that, and start popping out their own princesses to protect. So it's a it's it's tough. I think the strongest thing for me in what made me not become a misogynist was just having female friends who like were sexually active, and hearing about their lives, and learning from them. But that's the thing. It's it can be tough if like some people go their whole lives and don't really have women friends. Or if they jump into marriage really early and they don't understand like um, you know I don't know how many people live their life. I don't know. So I guess no way I was a theater kid. This lore is crucial. Oh man. Um, uh, and you must play basketball, random old person when I meet, I'll tell a guy. Yeah, this was every day. I mean, and yes, I did play basketball, but yes, I'm everyday tall. Someone comments on my height every day. Theater kid. Yeah, yeah, I was in a lot of plays. Um, Keep in mind that like the story behind it is not as interesting. So I went to an all boys high school. So like when in order to try to meet girls, like I joined theater because the theater was with the sister school, and so that was the heart of it. But I thought theater was really fun, and when I was in college, I continued it. I thought it was really it was a fun group. Um, Though I mean, in general, theater people are they like their drama, and they all like attention. So we tended to be kind of crazy people. So I mean, if you want, I think theater people would all agree with this, that that theater people are very self obsessed. They want to be the center of attention. That's why they want to be on stage, and they love drama, and they love drama because it makes their life the center of everything and makes their life the stage. Um, was I ever in Hamlet? No, the only Shakespeare I was in Love's Labor's Lost. Um, but I was not cast very much because they didn't want the tall guy on stage, like in the lead. So there's a lot of not to complain like, oh god, the world is against tall people, but in theater the world's against tall people. So they would never cast me in the lead because I'd be towering over the other people. So I was an actor, but I did a lot of tech just because like you tended to do small theater, so you tend to learn the whole thing. So I did some direction near the end, and so I did so I know about light design and sound design and stuff for theaters and set construction and all of that. Like I know all of that because you have to help out. Like in general, like when stuff is happening, like oh we need to build the set. They make the actors do it when you're doing small theater. So let's see. Do you know how to initiate with someone else? And if you have any advice for who are going through the transition, it's it's hard. Like I even come up with people online who I think are like big misogynists, and I try to explain to them that you're hurting yourself, like by being a sexist. Like you're never gonna like one, you're gonna be a lot happier in life if you have an equal to be with and you see people as equals and you empathize with people. Like that makes us feel less alone in the universe. Like if you think you're just better than a whole class of people, then you're just alone. Like you're alone. So this goes for relationships and friendships and everything. But also it's just and I'm gonna make this a really weird analogy, but um once I was traveling and I had not I love scuba diving. And once I was traveling and I had never scuba before, and I was in a scuba town because there's a lot of beach towns that are scuba towns. And this person tells me like, look, dude, like I understand that like getting the scuba lessons are expensive, but um you're never going to come upon an experience that's so different and alien that opens your mind to a completely different realm of thinking. Like when you're scuba diving, you are in a completely different, you are in the mind of a fish. And it's a completely different realm of thinking. Like there's no gravity. Like how you interact with everything is different. Like up and down and what animals and colors and are every day to you. It's just a completely different experience. And to someone that's never scuba dived, you can't explain scuba to somebody because like scuba is just another world. But it's so awesome to have experienced that world. Because there's it's just one of those things. Like if you're trying to describe to someone the taste of milk who's never drunk milk, like what would you say? Like it's a little sweet. Like scuba is like that. So like having female friends and hearing about their experiences in life, um, it's very different. It's very different from what I'd ever experienced before, and it opens your mind to a lot of different things. And so I keep looking through everything through it like from a selfish perspective, like having friends that are women and treating them as equals and seeing them as equals, it's just so beneficial to yourself. Like you get to see so much of the world through a different lens. You get to understand the universe more. Just as I'd say, if you have a chance to scuba dive, scuba dive. And so I guess I'd try to explain it like that. That like also just in an economic sense, if you're a misogynist and you're trying to get a job somewhere and you do not work well with a female supervisor or female people on your team, you're going to fail. And it's one of the things like I feel sorry for the Middle East because I lived in the Middle East for a long time, and there's a lot of wonderful people. There are good people there, but a lot of them are misogynists, and their whole system is structured around misogyny. And so it's like, how are you expected to advance? Like, how are your businesses going to advance when like a business leaders are going to come and some of them are going to be women and you can't shake hands with them because if you shake hands with them, you're going to cream your pants or dishonor your family. You know, that you flip out when a woman walks in the room and you're like, oh, and you can't talk to them because you're so nervous because you've never been around women. Like you're screwing yourself on so many levels, like personally, spiritually, economically, vocationally. Like you're in such a better position considering women as equals and just like opening and this goes for everything too though. I mean, it goes for other races, it goes for sexual orientation, it goes for trans people. Like there those perspectives and how people have seen the world have opened my mind to things I never thought about before. And thank goodness, you know. And so I guess I always frame it from the selfish perspective, like, dude, for your own best interest, like it's best to see the world this way and like open yourself up in this way. But that's the best I can do. I mean, I wish I were better at it. I don't think I'm very good at convincing people not to be misogynists. At least I don't know if any of my misogynist fans have come around. Do you think that the writers will eventually reveal that Jace is actually Cole's son and that it won't be revealed until much later? Dramatic irony. I hope they pull that. I hope they pull some sort of little sneaky thing in there. You know, it's in there. I would be still surprised if they include it because it's like too good of a plot point that Jace is actually Cole's son. It's just too good of one. But maybe to excuse the heavy-handed their Harwin Strong's message that they gave in this episode, that the big twist is going to be that Jace is Cole's son. I would like that. I think that would be really, really, really fun. Especially like if Cole and Rhaenyra have to face each other later on. Like, let me see here for a second, because I'm trying to remember. So unfortunately, and this is what I thought was pretty sad, is that Kristen Cole dies in battle out away from King's Landing. And you kind of feel like Rhaenyra and Kristen need to have like one last conversation with each other, right? And they never do. They never do in the material. He just kind of, you know, talks ill of her and then becomes the Kingsmaker. And then Kristen is, it says, while marching in the God's Eye, Kristen, no. Kristen tried to retake Harrenhal from Daemon, and then Kristen marched. Blacks destroyed the villages. Benjamin, and then Kristen's host marched south. I'm trying to see how he died. Did he just die in battle? Yeah. I guess that's it. Like, I'm trying to. The wiki doesn't have like exactly how he dies. Kristen challenged through Rob Rivers. How Kristen's strike down the king. Oh, here it is. Pate had Rob Rivers and his archers strike down the Kingsmaker. That's it. He's killed by a rando. He's not even killed by Daemon. He's not even killed by Rhaenyra. He's killed by a rando. What a horrible, like, that's kind of a sucky way to die. Like, he should have like one last conversation with Rhaenyra in my respect, in my feeling. Thank you, Emmeline. And then it would be, and then it would make a good story. But I'm gonna ask just to answer this last one from Emmeline, and then I'm gonna log off because I've been on here 3 hours 10 minutes. Do you think they'll include Sarah Snow in the show? I do. I think that now that the show is a success, they're probably going to start slow rolling it to have another season, right? Because it was, you know, they set it up where it went really fast, and so if the show only did so well, you could just have the dance be season 2, and that would be the end, and then just be like done. Um, and then, but now like we can extend out the dance, so we can include some Stark stuff and the the Pact of Ice and Fire. So I do think that they're going to have Sarah Snow and all the Stark stuff in there, and they're going to probably extend it out. I think it's going to be that. Did I say something that I'm a Kristen Cole stan? I hate Kristen Cole. I hate Kristen Cole in the book. I hate Kristen Cole in the show. But uh, I just think it's more interesting that he'd be like so against his own child. Um, the but I do think that Sarah Snow is going to be. They're going to make the Stark stuff longer. They're going to extend stuff out. I mean, this is kind of like what happened with Game of Thrones, right? They slowed stuff up around seasons 3 and 4, and then had to start speeding it up again. But I think it'll be something like that. But all right. So thank you everyone. Thank you for sticking with me. Yeah, no visitors this whole time. No Trey, no Carmine, nobody. Oh well. Anyway, thank you guys. We'll see you next time. But yeah, that's my last thing. I think yeah, they could maybe pull out the show to 5 seasons or something if they add these B plots. But I think they will slow stuff down and have more Stark stuff. At least that's what I would do. Anyway. All right. Thanks everyone. I'll see you next time.